Hello, my name's Sita Brahmachari, and I'm so delighted to be talking to you about my writing inspiration. I've got around me loads and loads of the things that inspire me to write stories, but the main thing that's really important to me is the notebook. And I know that so many of you will have a writer's notebook or just a piece of paper that you doodle on. If you're a doodler and a daydreamer, and you're the sort of person that has these sort of wild dreams that when you wake up in the morning, you think, oh, I really must write that down. It's a very strange idea of bringing symbols and objects and storylines and plots together. Then you may one day become a writer, because that's how I started. And I always, when this is the notebook for one of my novels, Where the River Runs Gold. And I started, you can see here that I started collecting. There's a seed packet here, there's a newspaper article here. There's a letter that a young reader sent me about cutting her hair for charity. Now, all of these little pieces end up in my stories. My stories very often are about belonging and community and the things that I really, really care about. So, for example, one of the stories that I've written is called Tender Earth. And it's about a young girl who wants to stand up for the inequalities that she sees around her. Now, when I was very young, I had this really, really strong sense of it's not fair. And I used to think, why are the adults behaving like that? Why are things organized like that in an unjust way? So it's not fair for everybody. And as I've grown up, I kind of never really lost that sense of I would like to do something to change that. So a lot of my protagonists, a lot of my heroes and heroines in my stories, they see something that they would like to be changed, and they go on a journey, an adventure, and they discover a path that allows them to change things into a more hopeful and just society. Now, I didn't get this kind of way of being from nowhere. When I was growing up, my dad, who came from India in 1959, used to tell me stories about his long ship journey to Britain. And he used to talk about what it was like to have to leave your country and start life again in a new land with really very few of your belongings and the people that you love around you. And those kind of stories that he used to tell me really kind of seeped into my imagination. And I started to wonder, oh, what would that feel like? Because I grew up in a very different place in the Lake District where my mum came from. So I had these two cultures and histories, and storytelling was really part of my family, as I know it's probably very much part of yours. So as I'm telling you this, I hope you're filling your mental notebook with ideas of like, well, if I was to write a story, who would be inspiring to me? Who would be like Sita's dad, who used to tell her amazing stories? Who is there in your life? Maybe an auntie or an uncle or a carer who, when they tell you a story, you kind of really lean in and sit forward and think, I just don't ever want them to stop. But when I was growing up, I didn't realize that my dad's stories would be the kind of things that you'd ever find in books. So I used to doodle and write my own notebooks. I've got my own notebooks here from when I was 12 or 13 years old, the first time I went to India to meet my family. And I used to write travel journals and diaries, and my books are kind of all written in that way. I used to go into a house and I used to wonder about the history of the house. You know, when you go to some places and you think, oh, this place has got a real atmosphere. I can almost feel the people who lived here in another time. And I used to just go home and after school, and I used to write ideas for stories out all of the time in my notebook. And what I didn't realize was that what I was doing was what writers do, and what I do all the time to write all of the books that I've written, is I piece ideas together and bring and piece history together, piece research together, be inspired by the people that I meet, and then I weave them into a story. So the process of writing for me is like a patchwork. It's like sewing together a patchwork storytelling quilt. And the funny thing about writing for me is that when I think I've spent far too long at my desk writing and really I can't think of another story, it's just like another story swims into my mind. And I do have quite a sort of random mind that collects things from different places. And I have all of these symbols in my book. I've got a conch shell from my latest novel, When Secrets Set Sail, on my desk. And through this conch shell, the young people in my story, Imtiaz and Usha, They hear the sea, but they also hear a woman's voice speaking to them from the past. So you can see that I'm taking these objects, I'm taking my imagination, I'm taking history, I'm taking the cultures and the storytelling that my family gave me, and taking my journeys to around the world to see, luckily to see my family who live in different places. I take in all of that in this kind of planet of my writer's mind, and then I kind of paint different stories with all of that. What I didn't realize when I was your age was that all the colours that I was already painting when I was this quite shy young person that used to sit by rivers and make up stories, all of the colours that I was painting were the same sort of things that I was passionate about as I am now writing the book. So if you think of this orange colour as my novel Jasmine Skies, I started writing that book the first time I went to India. I started putting the colours down for that story on my storytelling palette when I was your age. And I hope from this little conversation that you will allow your ideas to flow like I have done in my stories. This is my World Book Day story that came from the story before, which was When Secrets Set Sail, because stories get stories. I hope you're going to be inspired to open your own notebooks. This one belongs to Usha in When Secrets Set Sail, and begin a journey, maybe set sail on your own story. Now I have a banner here, right here, which is the last thing that I'm going to show you. And this banner was made by Friday for Future protesters, and they carried it on a protest that we should look after the environment. And it has the words here: dare, dream, believe, imagine. What is amazing and magical about reading and about writing is it can release the ability to dare, dream, believe, and imagine way beyond the rooms that you're sitting in, way beyond the experiences that you can ever travel in one lifetime. You can do that if you enter a book through writing or reading. Enjoy the journey.